At some point today, or yesterday, or last week, you moved to music. Maybe nobody saw you. Maybe you did it in the car, or in the kitchen, or in the brief, glorious 30 seconds between your bedroom door closing and the rest of your life resuming. Maybe you told yourself it wasn't really dancing. It was. It absolutely was. The kitchen counter has seen everything. Here is what I want to ask you. Why? Not why you specifically. Why any of us? Why does rhythm do that to the human body? Why, across every culture in recorded history, on every continent, in every era from the Stone Age to last Friday, do human beings move when they hear music? Anthropologists have a technical term for this universal human behavior. They call it dancing. Scientists have been studying it for decades. They have not stopped being surprised by it. The answer reaches back further than civilization, further than language, further than almost everything we think of as human. There's still more to discover. Dive deeper with our Gumroad companion guides, the full story, the hidden details, and everything worth knowing. And if history looks good on you, our merch links are waiting in the description below. And now, back to our story. The oldest evidence of dance we have found is painted on the walls of the Bhimbetka rock shelters in central India. 9,000 years old. Human figures in groups in motion. Arms raised, bodies in positions that every archaeologist who has studied them has described with the same word. Dancing. Not running or fleeing or doing something ambiguous. Dancing. 9,000 years ago, someone looked at this moment and thought, this is worth painting on a wall. That's how important it was. By 3300 BCE, Egyptian tomb paintings showed professional dancers performing at religious ceremonies and royal events. By 2600 BCE, Mesopotamian temples had designated dance rituals. In ancient China, in the Indus Valley, in the ancient Americas, every civilization that left records of dance. Not as entertainment, not as performance in the modern sense, as ritual, as offering, as the thing you did when language wasn't enough. Every time we find an ancient civilization, we find three things: evidence of language, evidence of religion, and evidence of dance. At this point, we should probably update our definition of what civilization requires. Scientists have spent decades trying to explain why. The answer they keep arriving at is, because it works. Synchronized movement with other people releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. It synchronizes brainwaves across groups. It reduces cortisol. It builds trust between strangers more effectively and more quickly than almost any other activity. In short, dancing together made early humans cooperate. And cooperation is what built everything else. The secret ingredient of human civilization may be a good beat and a willingness to move to it. This is either the most profound thing or the most embarrassing thing science has ever confirmed. Possibly both. Around 1000 BCE, something happened in Jerusalem that the Bible recorded in extraordinary detail. King David had defeated the Philistines. He had recovered the Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object in Israelite religion, the gold-covered chest said to hold the tablets of the Ten Commandments, the physical embodiment of God's presence among his people. And as the Ark entered Jerusalem, David took off his royal robes and danced, not a dignified kingly shuffle. The text says he danced with all his might, leaping, whirling, in a linen priest's garment, before his entire court, in full public view. The king of Israel, doing what kings were categorically not supposed to do in the street. His wife Michal watched from a window and despised him for it. When he came home, she told him so. A king, she said, had made himself common, had embarrassed his office, had forgotten his dignity. David's response is one of the more magnificent things ever recorded in Scripture. He said, "I will celebrate before the Lord, and I will be even more undignified than this." 3,000 years before anyone coined the phrase, "dance like nobody's watching," a king looked his wife in the eye and said it first. The Bible has extremely good material when it is not being used badly. What David understood, and what every ancient culture before him understood, and every culture since has rediscovered, is that dance is not performance. It is not entertainment. It is not something you do when the formal business is finished. It is the formal business. It is the offering itself. David was not celebrating the ark. He was offering the only thing he had that was entirely his own: his dignity, his crown, his reputation, all set aside. Just a man and a rhythm, and a God he was trying to reach without words. The linen ephod might be the most honest outfit in the entire Old Testament. We began this season with a question about Karahantepe, the 11,000-year-old amphitheater in Turkey, carved from stone before the first city, before writing, before the wheel. We asked, why did they build it? The official archaeological answer is, we don't fully know, which, from a before we forget perspective, is not an answer. It is an invitation. Here is what we do know. An amphitheater, a performance space with tiered seating for an audience, exists for one reason: because something was happening that people wanted to gather and watch, or gather and participate in, or gather and become part of together. 11,000 years ago, no cities, no agriculture yet fully established, no writing, no formal religion as we would recognize it, but a stage. Someone, 11,000 years ago, looked at a hillside and thought, we need a better space for this. This exact thought, we need a better space for this, has been the beginning of every theater, every concert hall, every arena ever built. The technology has changed. The impulse has not. What were they doing in that space? Music, almost certainly. Ritual, likely. Drama, the reenactment of stories, the earliest theater, possibly. And dance, probably dance. Because at 11,000 years ago, before any of the other art forms had separated into distinct categories, before music and dance and theatre had become different things, they were all the same thing. Movement, sound, story, together, in a space built specifically to hold them. Shakespeare invented the modern play, but the idea of gathering people together to watch movement and story unfold in a dedicated space, that was Karahantepe, 6,000 years before Shakespeare was born. Drama school applications have been competitive for a very long time. The Pimbedka cave paintings, the Ark entering Jerusalem, the amphitheater at Karahantepe, 10,000 years apart. The same impulse running through all of them like a thread. Move together, make something of it, and find a space worthy of the moment. Here is what 10 episodes of Before We Forget have been about. Not just history, not just facts, not just the things we almost lost. They've been about the argument that human beings have always been more extraordinary than the official record suggests. That the things we dismiss as primitive, the dreaming in a dark temple, the dancing before a god, the gathering in a stone amphitheater before civilization had a name, were not primitive at all. They were the beginning of everything. Dance did not come after civilization. Dance, the evidence suggests, came first, along with music and story and the irresistible human need to be witnessed by other humans in a moment of complete feeling. We built the cities later. The important stuff was already happening in caves. King David danced with all his might before the Lord. 9,000 years before that, someone in central India painted it on a wall. 2,000 years before that, someone in Turkey carved a stage out of stone so that people could gather and watch and be part of it together. And today, in a kitchen, in a car, in 30 stolen seconds between the door closing and everything else starting again, someone is doing the same thing. The beat drops, the body moves. 10,000 years of human history arriving in your living room at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. You were never going to resist it. Nobody ever has. That's season 1 of Before We Forget. Thank you for being here. What topics would you like us to include for the next season? Hit the subscribe button before we forgot. And before we forget, when's the last time you danced like nobody was watching? And what were you celebrating? Tell us in the comments. If you made it this far, you clearly have excellent taste. Stories like this deserve to be remembered and shared. Like, subscribe, and tap the bell so the next forgotten story finds its way back to you. And if you want to carry a little piece of history with you, our merch is waiting in the links below.